Ulrich Hayfield returned home to find his 12-year-old son awake. Ulrich had been all but certain his son would die from the injuries he suffered during the school sparring match. Instead, here was Nathan sitting up and drinking from a cup. As Ulrich touched his son's shoulder, Nathan looked toward the doorway, where the door remained open, and a gray-haired man in a white robe stood watching. Ulrich followed Nathan's gaze. "Nathan, this is Sir Yara Shira, a healer." Ulrich motioned for the man to come inside the house. Yara closed the door behind him and stepped over to the cot where Nathan lay. A man of few words, he said nothing. He bent down and carefully unwrapped the bandage on his patient's head. Yara's eyes narrowed as he examined the blood-caked wound. "I need a clean cloth and some water." Ulrich nodded to his daughter, who jumped up and ran to the kitchen. She returned with a towel and a bowl of water. Yara blessed the bowl with a basic healing spell, dipped the cloth in the water, and dabbed at the wound on Nathan's head, cleaning off the dried blood and staining the towel red. Nathan flinched. "I would imagine that it still hurts. After I clean the wound, we'll dress it with a new bandage." Yara reached into the medical bag he had brought with him and pulled out a roll of gauze. As he rewrapped Nathan's head, he spoke quietly. "From the way your father had described your situation, I had envisioned you to be in much worse shape." Ulrich interrupted. "Sir, he was in dire straits. I feared he'd never wake up. So when I walked through the door to see my son sitting up and talking, it was nothing short of a miracle." Yara nodded. "I have seen miraculous recoveries from time to time, but more often than not, patients with severe head injuries—" His voice trailed off. Nathan fought the urge to lie back down on the cot as Yara examined every inch of his body. Nathan's head throbbed, his stomach roiled, and his muscles ached. Finally, Yara stepped back and sighed. "You must rest. It will take time for you to heal." Yara turned to Ulrich. "Make sure that he drinks plenty of water and eats well. I will leave some medicinal herbs for you to crush up in his food. Nourishment will be the key to his recovery." With that, Yara left. Nathan put his head down on the pillow, hoping to get some more rest. The healer was right. He wouldn't recover overnight. Amelia jumped out of her seat and couldn't stop pacing, excited that her brother had finally woken up. But Ulrich's expression remained guarded, his hooded eyes as dark as those of a hawk. He was thrilled, of course, by his son's dramatic improvement. He loved his son to death. But there was more to it than that. If his only son had died, he would have lost his statue as a noble, thus losing his mansion and his property, the hamlet of Dunshire, and the family's renowned medicinal herb garden. His family house had been on the edge of total ruin, and so he breathed a sigh of relief that he had yet to fail his Hayfield forefathers. But now that his son was on the road to recovery, he faced the Herculean task of keeping Nathan alive as enemies sought to strip the Hayfield family of everything they had. It didn't take long for word to get around that Nathan had awoken from his coma. The townsfolk had expected him to die, of course. 2 days after Nathan's inexplicable awakening, the first visitor showed up at the Hayfield household. Knock, knock. It was town busybody Hilda Moonweaver. The middle-aged woman with a muslin petticoat and long hair tucked under a cap carried a basket of hot-cross buns. When Ulrich's guards opened the door to her, Hilda craned her neck to look around the men's muscular bodies to sneak a peek of what was going on inside the house. Ulrich approached and shifted his body to prevent her from spying on Nathan, who, by now, had graduated from the cot to a couch.
"So, the rumors are true that Nathan survived?"
She lifted an eyebrow as she continued to try to catch a glimpse inside the house. Ulrich nodded. "Yes, his recovery is coming along." He knew darned well that she already knew the answer to the question. She was just here to confirm it. He gritted his teeth. As an afterthought, Hilda held out the basket to Ulrich.
"I brought these for you and your family."
Eking out a thank you, Ulrich already pushed the door halfway closed in an attempt to cut the conversation short. Even after the door had latched into place, Hilda's voice on the other side could be heard asking questions.
"When can we see him? Is he going back to that magic school in Godricshall?"
The questions went unanswered as Ulrich took the buns to the kitchen. He swore under his breath.
"Damn nosy lady. Can't anyone around here mind their own business?"
Ulrich plucked one of the buns from the basket and then promptly returned it.
"It's stale. He didn't even have the good grace to give us a freshly baked batch."
Over the following weeks, Nathan never strayed from the house. Instinctively, he felt a need to protect himself from the townspeople, at least until he had fully regained his strength, and then some. So he hung out inside the house, and, weather permitting, he caught a breath of fresh air in the back courtyard. He avoided the front yard, where passer-by might see him. He prayed every night to the heavens to grant him his old strength back, and, slowly, he began to heal, rehabbing his broken body with push-ups, crunches, and stretches. He hid this from Amelia and Ulrich whenever they were around, for fear that they would worry about him pushing his body too far. Amelia returned to her daily duties and school. She even went to the herb garden to ensure Sir Yara's instructions regarding Nathan's meal infusions were carried out exactly. Her father had instructed her to keep mum about her brother's recovery. Ulrich warned her that Nathan's life might depend on it. Despite Hilda and the other gossip-mongers' best efforts, Amelia refused to say anything more about her brother in public, even when bribed with freshly made buns or peppered with compliments. She knew House Clay could have spies anywhere. Being a noble, Ulrich had no need to work. Instead, he stayed home and tended to his son. That meant Ulrich didn't have to answer questions from his nosy neighbors except, of course, when they showed up on his doorstep. Knock, knock. It was a warm evening when Ulrich answered yet another knock at the door. He had grown used to the incessant visits from neighbors who simply wanted to pry information out of him about Nathan. After all, Nathan's astonishing comeback was something that wasn't seen every day in this world. Some wondered if Nathan's life had been spared because he had hidden magical abilities that, up until now, had gone unnoticed. The knock at the door this time, though, heralded a visit from Arturius Spellwright, an unsavory-looking scholar by day and spy for hire by night. He wore an ornate robe gilded with gold threads. Ulrich's face twisted in disdain at the man who stood on the front steps. "How may I help you?"
"I was wondering, sir, if we may come in."
Behind Arturius stood Grimgor Raven of the infamous but noble Raven family. It was well known that the Clay family had close ties to the more powerful Raven family. It was Jason Clay who had nearly killed Nathan, so Ulrich wanted nothing to do with either one of them. Ulrich shook his head no. "No, I'm sorry. I am busy." He swept the door closed, but with astonishing speed, Grimgor wedged his shoe in the threshold to keep it from shutting all the way. Arturus spoke for his grim-faced master.
"Sir, we've brought you a proposal from the High Lord Raven himself."
Ulrich puckered his lips with disgust. "Tell him I'm not interested." He manhandled the door to force it closed, but Grimgor's foot stood in the way. Arturus smiled sinisterly.
"Please, Mr. Hayfield, this is important."
Derision and annoyance mingled in Ulrich's expression. Finally, he shrugged, stepping back to let the men in. He was thankful that Amelia was out with her friends, and Nathan was resting in his bedroom upstairs. The last thing Ulrich wanted was to allow these two ne'er-do-wells near his children. The moment Arturus stepped inside, he lifted his chin and, looking down his nose, surveyed the interior decorations. No doubt, The rug in the living room was worn, the fireplace needed replacement stones, and the furniture was in need of repair. Ulrich figured Arturus was making a mental list of necessary repairs if the house was taken from the Hayfield family. Arturus reached into the pocket of his ornate robe and, with a flourish, withdrew a piece of paper. He handed it to Ulrich, who didn't immediately look at it. Arturus cleared his throat.
Do you happen to have any tea?
Ulrich shrugged. We have water in the kitchen.
Oh, thank you. I am quite parched from my travels, and I appreciate your hospitality, sir.
Arturus's voice dripped with insincerity. Ulrich motioned for Arturus and Grimgor to take a seat at the large wooden table. After he set cups of water in front of the visitors, Ulrich pulled up a chair for himself. He fingered the piece of paper.
What is the meaning of this?
Arturus sipped the water and inclined his head gravely.
It would be wise if you opened that post-haste.
Ulrich looked down at the note, which was sealed with a sigil he wasn't familiar with. As he peeled the wax back and read the note, he arched an eyebrow. You don't expect me to take this seriously, do you? Ulrich looked from one man to the next. Grimgor sat motionless and expressionless. Arturus scoffed. A slight smile protruded on his face.
I believe it to be a fair offer.
Ulrich's mouth thinned with displeasure. You're asking me to withdraw my nobility. How is that fair to me? How is that fair to my family? Arturus shifted in the wooden chair.
We all know House Hayfield is in decline. Think of this offer as an insurance policy. In 3 years, when your family's noble status is reconsidered, you may find yourself losing your home and property anyway. This offer from Lord Raven will ensure that you and your children are not kicked out on the street at that time. You will be set up with an eminently suitable home and property, albeit that of a commoner. Still, you and your children will be taken care of.
Grimgor cut in.
Ulrich,
you can wait until your noble status is reevaluated, if you wish. But when you come up short, you will be left with nothing. This I can promise you. Arturus studied Ulrich, whose eyes were fixed on Grimgor's fist as it tightened around his sword hilt.
As you well know, Nathan is weak, and he's your only son. At this rate, he won't be ready for the upcoming championships, and if he doesn't do well at them, you, as well as I, know that will only further imperil your nobility status.
A muscle quivered in Ulrich's jaw. How dare these two dolts insult him and his family?
Further imperil? What are you getting at? It's no secret that your land has been unproducing crops for the past few years. Some say the medicinal garden needs new management. Even you must have heard the rumblings that your land, well, how do I put it, may be reassigned at the next evaluation. It all adds up, Ulrich.
Grimgor chimed in.
Save yourself now, Ulrich, or regret it later.
Ulrich bent his head and cast a mutinous look at the two men. I have been more than clear with the Duke Godric that there have been issues with the crops. I can't control the weather. Arturus's lips curved up into a nefarious smile. And you can't control how the High Lords will react either. We're just suggesting that maybe this time you should get ahead of it before there are more issues. I see where this is going, and I wouldn't classify what happened to my son as an issue. It was a crime. The Clay boy tried to kill him. There's no disputing it. Arturus tapped his finger on the table.
And, of course, we are all hoping that your son makes a swift recovery. Your false platitudes are not appreciated here.
Ulrich clamped his lips together. This little kitchen table meeting had to end, the sooner the better in his eyes.
I can assure you there is nothing false about what I am saying or offering. The land that is being offered is fertile and quite generous. I would strongly suggest you think this over, at least before rejecting it outright.
Grimgor raised an eyebrow.
You wouldn't want your legacy to end now due to your hubris.
Ulrich drew his brows together in a frown.
I'm sorry. Is that a threat?
Grimgor looked down, idly rubbing over the engravings in his sword hilt.
Just an observation, and one that I'm not alone in sharing.
With that, Ulrich pushed his seat back and stood up. Gentlemen, I'm afraid I have more important business to attend to. I can no longer entertain you. May I show you the way out? As Ulrich ushered Grimgor and Arturus to the door, he didn't notice Nathan hiding in the hallway, just around the corner from the kitchen. Nathan had heard every word the two men had said. He clenched his fists.